Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Mr. Johnson once famously said, "The present age abounds with a race of liars who are content with the consciousness of falsehood." That was Samuel Johnson in 1753. Today, Boris Johnson, no relation, gave a speech on his Brexit ideas. But after falsely claiming he never issued warnings about immigration from Turkey during the referendum campaign, he's been attacked from all sides. Theresa May held more talks with ministers at number 10, but with just 70 days to Brexit, there's no sign of progress. Our political correspondent Michael Crick reports.
As Theresa May grappled in London with what to do next on Brexit, her former Foreign Secretary toured the huge JCB factory in Staffordshire. JCB's boss, Lord Anthony Bamford, is a long-time Tory donor and was a big Brexit donor too. And he says his firm will benefit from Brexit. It was overwhelmingly likely, Boris Johnson said today, that Britain would get a deal, just not Mrs May's deal. And he said Britain should retain some of the divorce bill to get a long-term trade agreement.
To put a tiger in the tank to incentivise our friends, we should withhold at least half of that £39 billion until that deal is concluded.
But what had been hugely trailed were Johnson's remarks on immigration.
We know the way big corporations have held wages down, some of them, as they've had access to very, very big pools of labour from other countries. Now look, I want you to know, I'm a free market capitalist. And I'm a believer in the benefits of migration, by the way. I think it enriches our country, it brings talent, and it's a tribute to Britain that people want to come here. But I think there's got to be a balance. And if an influx of labour is being used not only to prevent an investment in capital equipment, but also in skills and in the prospects of young people, then we need to think carefully about how we control immigration.
Time to ask about his record on immigration.
Mr. Johnson, haven't you been all over the place on immigration in the last 5 years? 2013, you described yourself as the most pro-immigration politician in Britain. Then we had the referendum.
I think I said roughly the same just now. But anyway.
In 2016, the referendum, you and your chum Dominic Cummings in the Vote Leave campaign suggested 80 million Turks would come to this country if we stayed in the EU, which was absurd then and is absurd now. Doesn't all of this show you'll say anything just to win an election, in this case, the Conservative leadership election?
Well, I didn't say anything about Turkey in the...
But that was the campaign you led.
Well,
that was the Vote Leave campaign you led.
I didn't say anything about Turkey, and I think anybody who's followed my utterances over the last 20 years will know that I'm always been in the camp of those who defend.
So do you disown those remarks then? Do you disown them?
Since I made no remarks, I can't.
No, but your campaign did. The Vote Leave campaign did.
Well, I didn't make any remarks about Turkey.
But do you disown them? You were the leader of the Vote Leave campaign.
You do me too much honour. I was happy to support Leave, and I did. I happen to think that immigration can be a wonderful thing for our country, but as I said time and time again, it's got to be controlled.
Yet Johnson there today was strangely coy about his role in Vote Leave. He, of course, was their big figurehead. He toured regularly on their bus and served on the Vote Leave campaign committee. These are just some of the many different digital ads about Turkey, warning about possible Turkish immigration, which Vote Leave pumped out to millions of voters. Some were part of the £3 million spending blitz which Vote Leave strategist Dominic Cummings organised in the final few days. 4 times today, Johnson told me he'd said nothing about Turkey during the referendum. But the Channel 4 News fact-check team quickly found that is just not true. Take these TV debates.
And this map shows in red Turkey, but the only countries named in this map are Syria and Iraq. That's scaremongering, Boris, and you should be ashamed.
All right, Gisela.
It's government policy It's government policy. As far as I know, last time I looked, the government wants to accelerate Turkish membership.
We should be, I think, outside the EU, and I think Turkey.
Do you want Turkey in?
Provided we come out.
Oh, well, there we have it.
I'm all in.
It was the scheme.
I'm all in favour of Turkey coming in, but I want us to come out.
At one point, Johnson and Michael Gove wrote this letter to David Cameron about Turkey. The public will draw the reasonable conclusion that the only way to avoid having common borders with Turkey, they wrote, is to vote leave and take back control. Johnson himself has Turkish ancestry, and earlier in the referendum, the press quoted him as saying, "I am very pro-Turkish, but what I certainly can't imagine is a situation in which 77 million of my fellow Turks and those of Turkish origin can come here without any checks at all. That is mad. That won't work." After Johnson's Q&A today, I tried to put that quote to him.
Now here you are, Mr. Johnson. April the 17th, you said, "I'm very pro-Turkish, but what I certainly can't imagine is a situation in which 77 million of my fellow Turks and those of Turkish origin can come here without any checks at all." You said, "This is mad, that won't work." You said it was mad, Mr. Johnson.
It was perhaps not the best way to end what some saw as Boris Johnson's latest leadership bid.
Well, meanwhile, Theresa May in Downing Street has continued her meetings to try and resolve the Brexit crisis, not with opposition politicians today, and certainly not with Jeremy Corbyn, but with Conservative colleagues, mainly pro-Brexit Conservative colleagues, Ian Duncan-Smith, Michael Gove, Jeremy Hunt, Chris Grayling and Sajid Javid among them. Not, so far as we know, with anybody from the Conservatives who are in favour of a second referendum. There have also been many reports today of civil servants preparing for a possible snap election. Boris Johnson in Staffordshire today said he thought that was a very bad idea, and Mrs May's spokesman said that that was not going to happen, that the next election wouldn't be until the due date of 2022. But I suppose, given what happened 2 years ago, that's about as reliable as a football club chairman voicing full confidence in the team manager.
Thanks, Michael.
I've been